Hi, hello, and welcome to Sports Source. I'm Eric Tiongson, and we thank you for tuning in to our first show of the year from wherever you may be.
Stuart, this team is not called the Ground and Pound Dogs for nothing. Now, I came into this draft with a goal of building a superpower defense complemented by an elite running game, and I think I did just that. 3 of my first 4 picks were on defense.
Now, if you've ever seen the movie Moneyball, you know this. You want players that can get on base because you can't score runs without getting on base. Who cares if it's a hit or a walk? Get on base. Using this crystal ball, we're going to tell the future for 3 of the top high school baseball players in the Athens area. Charles, I see you've been eyeing this crystal ball, so I'll let you go first. What does the future look like for Athens Christian's Abhi Shah?
Now, there's 3 things this Tiger team needs to do if they want to get a big series win next week. Most importantly, they're going to have clutch hitting. There's not a single combination of letters more devastating in this sport than L-O-B, left on base. While the Tigers' offense came to life last week, it was in a bit of a slump before. In the 5 games prior to last week's series, LSU went 1-4 and averaged only 1.8 runs in those games. In those 4 losses, the Tigers stranded 17 runners on base. They can't afford to do that against Georgia.
Thanks, Rafa. I was watching those clips of him swinging in the batting cage, and I had to remind myself that he's only a sophomore. It's like watching Paul Bunyan take batting practice. And last, but not least, we have Stuart. Stuart, what did the crystal ball tell you about North Oconee's Kyle Jones?
Now, I'll say this. All 3 of these teams drafted look very, very good. But I don't think there's a scarier team to play against than mine. We play real dog football, ground and pound. Stuart, back to you.
Matthew Bowling is a runner at the University of Georgia who has made a big name for himself through NIL. Now, he's using his fame to give back. Joining me now is Molly Lee with more.
Thanks, Molly. Sanford Stadium is one of the most iconic spots on UGA's campus, but it's only used a few times a year. I've got the inside look on how the home of the Dogs is preparing to open its doors for the first game since November. This Saturday in Athens, for the first time in 140 days, it will be time to tee it up between the hedges. And when UGA football returns to Athens with the kickoff of G-Day, Sanford Stadium will be ready. Mark Delafachelle is the Senior Director of Facilities at UGA and is excited to welcome people back to where the Dogs play.
The crowd is here and everyone's excited, and we just want to give them the best facility that we can provide.
Delafachelle estimates that the crowd will be at near capacity in this year's game. For many football fans, G-Day is a welcome return to Sanford Stadium, but for many others, G-Day is a first taste of football between the hedges.
It might be a little different crowd at G-Day, maybe people who don't normally come to the stadium, and we want to really impress them just as much as our regular ticket folks.
Delafachelle and his staff have put in a few new changes that will be sure to impress spectators old and new alike on Saturday.
You'll just see there's some signage up from our national championship, of course. There's a 2022 sign up on the east end on the second level along the edge. You'll see that when you come in. There's also a new Dooley Field sign. It's got a little more pop to it, and really to honor Vince Dooley, with his passing.
But besides making the stadium pop, the field itself has to be ready for its first game since last November. Matt Holland is the Director of Fields and Athletic Grounds at UGA and has been hard at work to keep the field clean, safe, and fresh.
The biggest thing is just stability, making sure when they go to plant or cut, they can, and the grass or ground doesn't give away.
But springtime proves to be a challenging time of year to prepare a field. Fluctuating temperatures have been hard on the grass and prevented growth. Holland says that the grass on the field goes dormant if temperatures drop below 50 degrees, which has been common during nights this spring. He's had to get creative to keep the grass properly heated.
We have some we call them like growth blankets or frost blankets that try to create somewhat of a greenhouse effect. We also just play around with some dark colored paints. We'll paint the field kind of as blackish green as we can to hopefully trap some heat.
That's not the only painting they're doing. After being bare for a few months, the hash marks, yard numbers, sidelines, and end zones will get a fresh coat of paint. So while G-Day may be better known for the return of the Georgia football team, it's also the return of Sanford Stadium. And with full seats and a freshly painted field,
It will finally feel like Saturday in Athens, back between the hedges. For the Carmichael Sports Media Institute, I'm Eric Tiongson.
The average attendance for the G-Day game during the Kirby Smart era is over 70,000, and we'll be sure to see many people pile in tomorrow, kicking off a new year of Saturdays in Athens. Back to you, Molly.